everyone, I'm Kana Taku. Today, I want to do levels 27, 28, and 29 in this book about how to write more scholarly papers in English. The goal of level 27 is to read the email immediately if you get it from the editor. The goal of level 28 is to read it so you know what kind of decisions they made for your paper. And the goal of level 29 is to read it carefully so you can figure out what to do next. So basically, today I want to talk about what happens after we submit the manuscripts for publication in a peer-reviewed journal. After we submit our manuscript, the hardest part begins, waiting. This may take weeks or even months before we get the response as they go through the review process. If it has been 6 months or more since our initial submission, we can and should write an inquiry email to the editor saying something like, "Dear editor's name, like Dr. So-and-so, we were wondering if you could give us any updates on the timing and process of the review of our manuscript." And you can just add ID number like XXX that we submitted on such and such date. Hopefully they'll get back to us within a week or so with an update. But once the formal decision email comes through, the subject line will typically say something like "Decision on Manuscript ID 2022-123" or something like that. For me, I just can't wait a moment longer to know what it says. I just want to know. However, I know that other people get anxious when they see this type of email and they may delay opening it, either to savor the possibilities or to avoid seeing bad news. My advice, however, is to rip off the band-aid and just look as soon as the decision email arrives. This is because you can either have good news right away or know if you need to do more work to be considered again, or if you should just move on to another journal. Also, these revising and resubmission deadlines may have a strict turnaround, time of as little as 2 weeks. When working with co-authors, these revisions can take quite some time to coordinate feedback, updates, and final looks, so it's important to get started right away. When we open the email up, we should see one of 4 decisions to the manuscript. Of course, the most disappointing one is a flat-out rejection. This is the most common response, but it doesn't have to be a dead end. The most exciting but least common response is full acceptance. This is a great reason to rejoice. And in between these, there can also be either major or minor revisions needed. So although rejection can be initially disappointing, it is important to take a closer look at the reasons for it. Rejections are not negotiable, which means that your paper cannot be resubmitted to the same journal. However, there are a wide variety of reasons for rejection that can influence how to move forward. Sometimes journal editors just had a hard time finding reviewers, or the manuscript wasn't simply a good fit for the scope of the journal. In these cases, we don't have to worry about adjustment and you can submit to another journal that may be a better fit. Sometimes they will point out critical limitations that cannot be addressed, and other times they may leave us with a never-ending list of criticisms. Although we are not going to be submitting this paper back to the same journal, this list can still be beneficial to comb through and find what we could incorporate in order to improve our manuscripts for submission elsewhere. Of course, if any piece of feedback is not helpful, we can also ignore it. It may be frustrating to see that, for example, 2 out of 3 reviewers liked your work and only 1 of them doesn't like it at all, but this is still a good sign of future acceptance elsewhere. As of today, I have had about 80 peer publications accepted, but the vast majority of these were rejected first by at least 1 journal and had major revisions before their final acceptance. So perseverance is important. Now, when it comes to major revisions, the editor is giving us a second chance. So this lets us know that there are some important things that need to be addressed and our paper should be revised accordingly, but also that there is some potential for our work. This is the second most common response, and we should not feel dejected about this because the manuscript was not fully dismissed. There is no guarantee that they will publish our work, but we know what things to look at to improve from their list. People in my lab are really good at revisions, so we don't usually waste these second chances. This is, for me, almost as good as an acceptance response because I know what to do next. Minor revisions are great news, but also rare. I only received maybe 10 or so minor revisions decisions on my initial manuscripts. This is much more common after a resubmission in response to a major revision. The number of comments is typically not overwhelming, and the changes are more superficial. They are mixed in with some positive feedback and compliments. We just need to check a few boxes off and just get it done. The rarest decision of them all is acceptance on initial submission. This has happened to me only a couple of times in the last 17 years. However, the fact that I had about 80 peer-reviewed manuscripts means I must have received 80 acceptance letters. So I got a lot of rejection letters, but also acceptance letters. So the most disappointing moment for me happened when I misread a rejection email. It happened once. I just jumped in and skipped down to the long list of comments for improvement, and then started working on my paper to make it better and submit it again to the same journal, assuming if I got a major revision. I talked to my co-authors and we all were pretty confident in the changes we had made. But unfortunately, when I resubmitted it, the editor apologetically said that although I had done everything that they had recommended, since it was originally rejected, they would not be able to consider it for publication. I was so sad and felt like I had wasted so much time going through each of their, all of their points. This is why I recommend that you immediately read the full decision email, but very carefully. But at least we immediately submitted our paper to another journal and it was accepted pretty quick, so it worked out. Well, hope this helps. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again when I will work on the level 30. Bye.